What's going on, everyone? My name is Everett. Welcome to the Volleyball Source podcast. It is Friday, April 23rd, and our guest today joins us all the way from the Czech Republic, where he just won. Was it your first Czech Republic championship?
Yeah, that was the first one because last year it doesn't count thanks to COVID.
Fair enough. Well,
but yeah.
Today we have Mr. Marc Wilson joining us from Karlovarsko in the Czech Republic. Him and his club team just won the Czech Cup. He played in the Champions League this year. Former Guelph Griffin, former Waterloo Tiger. Did you ever play for the Stratford Stingers as well?
I did. Yeah. Well, we're the Cobras back then.
Oh, the Cobras. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the men's team. The Stratford's more known for the women's team or the women's side of volleyball, which is the Stingers. So I played for the Stratford Cobras. And then, yes, you're right, the Waterloo Tigers.
And then, when I played against you, you were on the Waterloo Tigers. I think I remember playing you for Waterloo in Stratford at a 17U tournament one time. We played at the tournament at St. Mike's, and a bunch of teams went sledding out the big hill in the back at lunchtime. First of all, how are you? Congratulations, you won your first ever Czech Republic trophy. You played Champions League for the first time this year. There's tons of stuff to talk about. So first off, how are you? And
well, it's I'm doing great. It's went through a lot of different emotions. Just recently, just this last week when I won that championship, because that's you said the first Czech Republic, but that's actually the first gold medal I've ever won.
Wow.
In all of my career. So it was just kind of like a huge just a momentous occasion for me. It kind of feels like you're working for so long. Like, I think back when you were talking about when I was playing Stratford Club Volleyball, it was like 2008, 2007. So it's kind of closing in on 13, 14 years of play. And now we finally won the gold. So I'm over the moon. Feeling lots of it was exhilarating. It was a relief. It was, and then it was interesting too, because it was almost a disappointment at some point because I was done. It's like when you finally win something and you kind of feel like you've accomplished, and then you almost get a sense of like, oh, well, what now?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just really I'm just so fortunate right now to be able to play the volleyball and to live my daily life unlike so many other people. And when we won the gold, it just of course we celebrated, but then it hit me kind of 4 days after. It's like, oh, it's finished now. I want to lace up and keep playing. But it was, so it was just a full range. How am I? I've experienced all the emotions.
Well, I mean, you guys had a pretty gnarly final series too. You guys were going up against CEZ Casey Schouten, another Canadian guy. And if I'm not mistaken, it went to all 5 games?
Yeah, it was as long as it could have gone. Yeah, it was, we played best of 5 series. It went to 5 games, and it was the last game. It was in 4 sets, so it was one set short of being the longest season you could possibly have.
Wow.
So it was here in Czech Republic, but I mean, I think it's pretty short compared to maybe say France or something like that. Like they're still playing in their finals, but yeah, it was a battle, man. It was a bloodbath because and playing against Casey was an absolute pleasure because we've been on similar timelines. Growing up, we're same ages, kind of gone through similar programs, had a glimpse of each other on the national team, and
mm-hmm.
I've been watching him in Germany, and it's just nice to have another English speaking person, in the gym to talk before and kind of after the games.
Yeah, and especially 2 guys who are, both such instrumental parts of their teams. They were calling him. I've heard they've called him La Bomba in Czech Republic, and I mean, you've been front and center for your team, kind of up front, kind of all season long. So I love seeing how. I got a lot of flack on my Discord this year for watching as much Czech Republic ball as I did, but there was so many Canadians in the Czech Republic. There was yourself. There was Casey, Lars,
Warren.
Warren Taylor.
Lars.
Yeah, Warren Taylor as well, and Lars Bornemann, and then we'll throw in Vicho Paraguay in there because he played at Laval, so he's basically one of us. And how What is the Czech
actually
league
met.
like?
Yeah. So now that I think of it, maybe we might have even been the most like Canadian populated league in Europe. Right?
Germany had more. Germany had a few more
Oh, okay.
Canadians, but
Anyway,
yeah.
good beating. Czech Republic is totally underrated. Yeah, I think it's a league that, from the foreign perspective, is like there is no perspective. Like people don't know what the country's like, what the people are like. It's like my parents were calling it Czechoslovakia for ages, and I was just like, no, those are two separate countries. They've separated. Anyway. So it's just like it's really everything's kind of unknown. And then when you get here and you kind of realize like, oh, the level of play is really on par. And that's why the Champions League experience was so exciting, because we struggled in the first round, but I think it's still a really new experience for a lot of the guys that were on the team, and playing against big names and big teams. And even though we didn't win the games that we wanted to, I still feel like we performed really well. I feel like we represented the country well. And then once you see a couple like I'm so excited for next year, because I want to go back and I want to beat the team. It was disappointing. I felt like we could have beat Trentino. I feel like we could have beat Friedrichshafen, and I felt we could have beat Novosibirsk.
Well,
we almost did.
Especially playing Trentino in that first round where they didn't have their setter. They didn't have Giannelli, and Namir was setting, and they surprised everyone.
So it's like once you, and these are all like extremely seasoned, there's professionals, and then there's these professionals. And so once you get the experience kind of level is that gap is kind of breached, then you have a few points that maybe go a different way that change the outcome of the match, because there was no like landslide set victories against any teams that we played against. So it was, it's just a couple points difference. And with the kind of experience, and I think that we can make a big difference next year. At least that's what I'm looking forward to. And in terms of, sorry, I'll come back to kind of Czech Republic. It's I guess the best way I could kind of phrase it so that maybe people could understand the level is, I think the top 4 teams in Czech Republic could compete with most, if not, most of the teams in Germany and in France Pro A. I think for sure. I think that we would give anybody a run for their money there. So it's like a kind of like hidden gem.
Mm-hmm. So that would be like obviously Karlovarsko, CEZ Budějovice, Dukla, Liberec, and then would you throw in like Ústí as the 4th team there? Is who'd say there's a 4th team?
No, I would put Prague.
Oh, Prague,
yeah. I mean, considering like they just like in their Challenge Cup performances, they almost upset Ziraat Bank, which is the first place team in Turkey. We just won the championship, like, I don't know, two days ago or something like that.
They just beat Kog and Grand Viagras and Fenerbahce in the final. So
exactly. So they took that team to golden set. So I mean, and that's the 4th place team in our league right now. So you kind of get a sense of where the league is at, kind of from those placings.
I mean, I feel like guys our age have a certain view of the Czech Republic because we grew up. Like you grew up did you grow up as a hockey fan?
Unfortunately not.
Okay. No, well, I'm just going to speak for myself.
We'll get into that later, but
I'll just speak for myself then. Whereas like growing up as a hockey fan, we had an acute knowledge of the Czech Republic because they were good. Right. And a lot of Czech players who would come in and play in the OHL, play in the CHL in general. So for me,
the Yager dynasty kind of thing.
Dominik Hasek, the list goes on and on. So for me, it almost seems like, it's almost that natural transition. They send their hockey players over here to come play hockey, and we send our volleyball players over there to play volleyball. It's a nice little synergy we got with the Czech Republic going on right now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I know there was most people are pretty disappointed when I tell them that I don't play hockey or I never really played hockey, because they're so happy to see a Canadian one, because we're polite and we have that nice stereotype of everybody loving us around the world. And then I come to a country where they absolutely adore hockey, and I have to disappoint, a person time after time saying, no, I'm sorry, I didn't play hockey.
You would have been a bit of Bambi on skates. I'm 6'3", and I was a Bambi on skate. I wouldn't say a Bambi, but I was big.
I was a Bambi in volleyball, man. And that's a non-contact sport. So, I mean, of course, I'd be a beanstalk on skates. That would be it. And, so, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I ended up playing volleyball to begin with was my parents never pushed me into volleyball or any sports in general. Like, my mother was a graphics designer, my dad is an architect. So I would say like they're more of like artistic creatives. Mm-hmm. And so sports was just picked up by myself. And I ended up playing, trying out soccer, and then I grew, and then I was like, okay, well, we can use the height somehow. So tried to play basketball, at 6'7", 170 pounds or whatever I was, which was, ridiculous.
You were getting bumped around the paint a little bit, weren't you?
I hated getting muscled around. Yes, absolutely. And by guys that were smaller than me, smaller and wider. And so then I was just like, okay, volleyball, there's a net in between me. I can use my height. No one's muscling me around. I can go with this. So then that's how it kind of started. That's my origin story, maybe.
How old were you when you started volleyball for the Cobras?
So I think I played a year of, it's like 17U, 16U, 17U, I think. That's when I started playing volleyball, was around 16 or 17.
And then when did you go to Waterloo? Because I remember playing. Yeah. Okay. I remember seeing you for Waterloo in 17U, I believe, and that was the first time I remember seeing you play volleyball.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll just we'll roll with the origin story thing here. So I played for my home team, the Stratford Cobras. Yeah. So it must have been 16U, mm-hmm. And then that team folded. So there was no like men's club volleyball after that. And so I just played high school, and I have a very distinct memory of playing in high school. And that was a year where we actually had quite a good team, and we were hosting OFSA. And I remember, and this was like much later, like the club season of that 17U year had already started. And I remember walking into the parking lot after my the OFSA had finished. And I just said to her, I don't want to be finished. And so she spoke to her sister, Linda Melnick, who is pretty connected in the Ontario volleyball world. And she found me a spot on the Waterloo Tigers. And it was like the most daunting thing when I was 17, because I just got a message from my aunt and said, be at this school and knock on this door. And so my mom and I got in the car and we drove down to Waterloo one night, and it was pitch black and there was no lights. And I was basically just walking by myself. I forget the name of the school. I wish I knew the name of the school. Anyway, down this basically side alleyway of the school. And then I found this big metal door, and I was just like, okay, maybe this is it. And I rapped on the door, and then of course somebody opened it up, and then there was a bunch of people playing volleyball in there. And then nobody knew who I was. And I was just like, is this the Waterloo Tigers? And they're like, yeah. And then I met Dave Steiner, who was, he was left side and libero for the University of Waterloo at that time. And he was the volunteer head coach. And then he welcomed me in. And then of course they were happy to have me, because I was just this big giant walking into the,
as any volleyball team happens,
exactly,
you
right?
have a big guy walk into the gym. You have a big guy walk in the gym. You're like, yeah, come. Yep. You don't know how to pass. Yep. You don't know how to serve. Doesn't matter. Come.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was Dave's total mentality, and it was just like, okay, yeah, sure.
And like, what a perfect dude to kind of get you started off. Dave Steiner is one of those guys who just loves volleyball, and
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here, I'll say one thing. because he was like he probably doesn't know how much of an inspiration he was to me. Um, because I don't think I've ever said this to him or out in public, but I really credit basically my whole story to him, because that year of 17U volleyball, he basically, no one knew who I was too, right? Like I started playing 16U, like the Cobras was a tier 2 or tier 3 team. Like no one knew who I was in the volleyball world, right? I joined really late, and we had a good enough season. And then at provincials, we just, he basically said to me, Mark, he designed a defense around me and my size. And he said, Mark, just go block the biggest guy on your team. I don't care about anybody else, or the biggest guy on the other team. And I remember yelling, he would yell at me on the side of the court, like to go block a specific guy. He would just be like, Mark, go, like just now, because it's like I had no experience and I had no, I just had a little bit of high school volleyball in this crappy club team. Oh, sorry, Cobras, but we were kind of not very good. And then I won an all-star because of basically his direction. And then the all-star led to the Team Ontario, and the Team Ontario led to universities looking at me, and then universities experience led me to learn about the national team and learn about pro, and then now I'm talking to you.
And now you're winning championships and playing in Champions League against the best of the world. So you were
exactly.
So you were essentially like inches away from never playing volleyball again because you didn't have volleyball. Right. This is why I'm so huge on we need to support volleyball in small towns, because there's so many stories like yourself. I spoke to Nathan Delguidis, who had a fantastic year up in Serbia. He's from Cochrane. There's so many guys like you, I think, in little towns, not only across Ontario, but across Canada, maybe the US as well, who would be such phenomenal volleyball athletes, be such great volleyball players who would love the sport and just never really get a chance. So the fact that you were able to, it almost sounds like a sketchy drug deal or like an underground poker game.
No, that's exactly what it was.
Where you're like, okay, I'm walking down this dark alley,
Yeah. And rapping on this steel door that was just like, I felt like the only thing that could have made it better is if there was like a latch, and then there was just like a hole, that instead of opening the door, it was just password. Yeah. And then shut it. And then, well, yeah, that's how it all started, kind of thing. And I hope Dave watches this, but yeah, it's and he's really inspired me to coach after. I know for a fact that I want to, I want to pay it back. I want to go full circle, and I want to if I could make a career out of coaching, I 100% would, because it's he inspired me at the same time. Like I coached a 17U team for the Guelph Griffins. Like it was, and I still talk to one of my players, and he was, anyway. It just feels really rewarding to inspire people, and I agree with you with the small town thing, because it just takes kind of like one moment sometimes. That's all it does. You can just show somebody what volleyball is, and they may not even know in a small town, and it can totally change their life,
Absolutely.
And all that effort is worth it, even if you just get that one player, right? And for Dave, that was me. It was just that, so that's cool to think about.
That's crazy, dude. Like, you were so close to never playing volleyball again, and just as I said, you were winning championships and playing Champions League, and now you're going to be
there's no club in my town.
You're going to be able to bring that back, and even guys there's guys who have played on the national team who have never played Champions League, and you're going to be able to bring that back to kids who may not know that pro volleyball exists, and you'll be like, no, I played Champions League, like I played against some of the best in the world, and that's, those are experiences that you're always going to remember, and that's fantastic.
I think I have an interesting story to share with some people, and hopefully they can learn from my mistakes and even some of the good things that I've done too along the way. So it's Go ahead.
Well, I was just about to say, it's funny that you mentioned that kind of playing on that team led to playing on Team Ontario because, I just interviewed TJ Sanders last week, and he was a member of that Team Ontario team, and that's two very different paths and kind of directions, but they almost end up in the same spot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a story about that. When I was on that team and playing with TJ, like I remember watching him, and he pretty much a superstar of he played for Forest City. That was a really decorated club. They had a lot of really good players, and he had and he was just really talented. It was just really obvious. And I remember actually, and this is me, the guy who won an all-star because his coach is telling him where to go and where to block, and coming in, and I felt like, just so out of place when I was on that team initially. I remember there was one time where I had to talk to my coach because I just broke down because I felt like I didn't deserve to be here because I was playing with TJ, for example, and I was just like, holy smokes, like these guys are so much better than me. And it was just like I felt like there was an I think one of the reasons I was on the team too was because I was big, and people are like, okay, well, let's see, he's not that good here and there, and well, let's just see if he can do anything. And I guess eventually I did something somewhere, but yeah, it was an interesting experience as well. And I think from a coaching, now that I'm talking about it, maybe from a coaching standpoint, is that I think that's one thing that I would love to give back when I come back, is create a program or something that exposes volleyball to people at an earlier age, that gives them the opportunities to explore basic skills and things like that. And a better foundation, so that you don't end up because there's I think Canadians are known, or at least on the teams that I've known for, is that we've been the biggest, strongest guys on the team, and there's a lot of like really physical people coming out of our country. If you look at like some of the young guys that are playing for the national team right now, they're like touching 12 feet. When I was playing, was like there was like one dude that could do it. And then now, like, that's the standard, right? And so it's just like I would love to be able to just bring back my knowledge at an earlier age for some of the kids and things like that. But anyway,
yeah, dude, that's a crazy story, and such a and having coached before, I know that exact thing where you're talking to a taller player and they have that notion where like, hey, I don't belong. Because especially at the younger age groups, taller players, like probably 16U, 17U, especially, that's when height really starts to focus. But at 16U, you can still be a 5'10" left side, or even shorter than that, and have success. And, if you're a good athlete, you're going to be successful. And all the time, like I remember Phil James, for example.
Yeah, okay.
And he was a
perfect example. I was with him.
Yeah,
I was with him.
And he was always a shorter middle blocker, around 6'6". And I remember when he didn't get picked for the junior national team in 2010, and everyone was kind of, all the Ontario guys were being like, man, Phil James is better than Lucas Van Berkel and blah blah blah. Like, why did they pick Van Berkel? And I mean, I still think Phil James, actually, him and I know you're good friends with his fiancée Maya as well. So I actually hung out with him in a park a few weeks ago, and Phil was still like, well, Maya doesn't know yet, but I'm going to go back to play pro and stuff like that. But it's interesting how we give those shots to those taller guys, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But in your case, it did. And
at that age. For sure, because I competed against Berkel for sure for a long time, and never got picked as well at the national level.
Yeah.
So but anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, it's especially at a young age too. It's hard to identify who's going to grow and who's not going to grow too.
Exactly. But, so I mean, they always say it, you can't teach height, and but
exactly.
once, like, at that point, I'm guessing that the trajectory in your head isn't, I'm going to go play pro. I'm going to go play Champions League. It's probably, hey, I'm going to go to school. I get to play volleyball. I'm going to get, my education, and then I'm going to continue on from there. At what point did it switch? At what point did you make that switch? And you're like, maybe this is for me.
Yeah. Okay. So after I graduated from high school, so I did a fifth year, and I was trying to choose what school to go to. Again, it was just like I'd only been playing volleyball for 3 or 4 years at that point, like competitively at all, and so I didn't even really know what professional volleyball was. I didn't know that the reality existed, and I was just trying to figure out like, oh, okay, like I'll keep playing volleyball at school. And so golf may be a good offer, and or I had a good scholarship opportunity there. I had family connections, and so I chose golf. I was choosing between golf and McMaster at the time, and at that time they had won, or they had lost. They had just lost in the finals to Queens. So, a medal. They just won a medal. They're giving me, a scholarship and a chance to play. And so as soon as and then I thought, because I was like, I liked playing with the provincial team and the way that it made me feel. I felt honored, and I felt like I was, an elite, and so that kind of made me hungry to be on the national team. It's just like the essence of growing and to be great at something. It's a pretty common inspiration for a young person, I think. And so then when I started to, understand what the national team was and how to try out for it, that's, in the earlier years of my university, I kind of then began to explore what professional volleyball is. And then, it just kind of grew. It just kind of grew over my university career. And then, by the time I was in my fourth or my fifth year, I was just like, this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go make this work. And, and so it just kind of turned out. So it kind of grew in university naturally.
And then you spent a little bit of time at the FTC, 1 year or 2 years at the FTC?
Yeah. So, well, I tried out for the national team from my first year all the way to my fifth year university, and never made the cut. I never got selected for the team, and then I later found out that they were impressed with how relentless I was, because I think the one thing the record that I have that nobody else has is the most attempts of making that team. I think it's like I'm 7 for 9 attempts on making that team. And so the reason that they took me in the fifth year, I went to the national team, I believe was because, for one, I'm graduating and I knew I was going to FTC. And so they could have me for a summer and then a full training year and then another summer again if I succeeded in that tryout. And I got really lucky, because in that tryout year for the second time, there was lots of funding in the program. So there was lots of cards, there was lots of positions. It was just after the Olympics. And so it was kind of like almost like the provincial team again, where it was just like, this guy's big, let's give him another try. Let's see what he can do. So that's I think that's how I made the national team.
Do you think you wouldn't have made it if you hadn't tried out all of those consecutive times beforehand? It was almost one of those things where you'd be like, man, Wilson's been here every single time. He's given 100%, 10% every single time he's come to this tryout. Like, he's big, he's physical. Let's put him on the team, and at the very worst, he's going to be a great teammate.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it was just like, I knew that was I kind of feel like I just wore them down eventually. It was just like, I later found out that Vincent Pichette, the assistant coach, was at the who was at the FTC the time that I was there. Later on, to previous years after I had gone away from the program, he described me as being relentless. Like, like making this program isn't an easy thing to do. Like, for example, Marc Wilson had to fail 5 times or 4 times before he got on the team. And so I admired that, it was like a secondhand compliment. It was kind of nice. And it was kind of funny to be admired for how many times you'd failed rather than how many times you'd succeeded.
But hey, you succeeded at the end of the day, right? So that's all that matters.
Yeah. I got there. It was a battle, but I got there. And Everett, I wish I could have stayed there though. I'm still trying, to be a part of that roster, but still continue to fail. But
you still going for it, eh?
Yeah, of course. I'd love to. It's always a dream of mine to represent my country, and I would always like to be a part of the roster, but be as good as some of the guys on the team, but to be better than them to be picked, I think. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we just announced the next gen roster, as they're calling it, which is essentially the B team, and it's pretty loaded. I was kind of thinking, at what point do we start looking at guys who are in pro and start considering them for the B team, for the A team? Especially guys like yourself, who are maybe a little bit later bloomers, but they're showing promise in good leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand their angle by using that program as to foster young talent, because I think that there's a place for national level coaching to high level players to breach the gap. Maybe that's not necessary, or it will become obsolete later on, because you're seeing more and more guys coming out of university and just going straight to Europe. But I think it's important to keep young guys on the team, because I think there's still a big skill gap between university and professional play in Europe, and there needs to be an avenue to breach that gap, kind of thing. So yeah, I think so. And then obviously, if you have those guys in pro play, then they could be called up to the A roster later in life. So I can understand the cycle, but I wish I was a part of it.
You still want it. I can tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you a big proponent for like the NEP FTC path? Because I know that in talking to a lot of people, it's maybe like casual volleyball fans who are aware of pro volleyball, they always seem to view FTC or NEP as a secondary choice. And I've for a long time been a proponent, being like, guys, if you look at the athletes who have gone overseas and are having prolonged good careers outside of the national team, those are all guys who grinded it out at the FTC. Yourself. I'm going to talk about my Ontario boys right now, and like yourself, Jory Mantha, Ray Zito. Like these are all guys who were at the FTC at the same time as you. You mentioned Casey Schouten, and who are all playing pro volleyball somewhere at a very high level. Whereas the superstar guys who just kind of skip that, sometimes after a year or two, they weren't ready for that reality of playing professional volleyball and have already fizzled out.
Yeah, I think it's an important part. Like I said though, I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't a thing though. At the same time, because it needs to be there, because the opportunities and the level just isn't good enough to teach or to compete against in our university systems, or I shouldn't just say that that's just the problem. I don't think the exposure and the understanding of the level goes both ways. Like Europe doesn't really understand, what level the university level is at. But I mean, I felt like the amount of things that I learned in club and in FTC and at university, was here. And then as soon as I went to FTC, with what Vincent taught me, like my volleyball IQ went through the roof, kind of thing. Like there was just so many intricacies and details, and the way that he broke down each skill down to its foundation and kind of retaught a lot of things to me really, really helped reach, for me to get to Europe, because When you get here, like those are all just standards. Like you have to be able to complete many different skills, and doesn't matter your position. And so, at least for me at the time, I would describe it as a complete necessary gateway to the pro life, like 100%. Yeah, but as the level of increases at the university level, which it has for sure.
100%.
I don't know if it's as necessary. The only thing that maybe I think that you'd have to watch out as a young guy is maybe the potential workload and taking care of your body, because I think that's something that I know I did it as a young guy, and I put all my body on the sideline sometimes and was lazy, and I certainly paid for it later on. And I know some guys have retired from it as well. And so there's the FTC again was kind of an eye opener in terms of like, okay, this is kind of the workload that I need to be expecting, and that standard of workload.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always found that the FTC doesn't only teach you like at that point, or the NEP, whatever you want to call it, Sky Dome, Rogers Center, whatever it is. It's not necessarily to teach you how to play volleyball; it's to teach you how to be a professional volleyball player. And I think that part of it is overlooked. What's it like to only have workouts? Like you're doing 2-a-day workouts and you're training all the time, and that's all you have. You don't have other projects to do for school. You don't have exams coming up. You probably don't have your girlfriend around. You're probably not really going to that many parties. Well, maybe you're a little bit different, because I know you've been in, you have a fiance, and you've been with Darrell for a long time. But the majority of guys are coming to the FTC single.
Yeah, absolutely. But here, you know what? I'll speak to it in kind of a reverse manner. The times that I've spent, so I spent 5 years here in playing professionally now. This is my 5th season that I just finished.
2 years in France and 3 years in Czech Republic?
That's correct, yeah. And so I've learned to kind of forget about age when I'm playing volleyball. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's what's your volleyball age kind of thing. Like, how many years have you been playing, right? Because I've played with loads of guys that are so much younger than me, because they've been playing in Europe since, they grew up. Like, there's so many guys on my team that played, like they went to volleyball high schools. Like, you went to high school and you played volleyball. Like that was what you guys did. It was like, it's like the university, but it's at high school. It's at that age. And so I've learned to think about, sorry, here, one second. I got to find my train of thought again. I've learned that, it doesn't really matter how old you are. It's just how good you are and how you've played in terms of age. But then there's sometimes I find that the younger guys, they don't know how to be professional. They lose that kind of professional, aspect. And it's something that we Canadians and as foreigners kind of learn how to be adults and, kind of grow up in university. Mm-hmm. Like, that's something that I kind of like, it's a big benefit, because you learn how to be, just an educated person, basically. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of lose some things in the side. So it's I think there's, because I guess I'm just describing two different systems. There's one benefit where there are guys who grow up and with volleyball and all they learn is volleyball. But then there is definite benefits to our system where, you have the school mixed in there as well that, teaches you how to grow up and be an adult kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think that we're going to start and I think we've already started seeing it, where more and more foreigners are targeting youth sports schools, maybe even some CCAA schools as well, to come get an education, but also further their volleyball careers as well. If you look at how many Canadians, both on the men's and women's side, are playing professionally across Europe, and if you look at events like the Can-Am event a few years ago, where it's obvious that, the teams are going toe-to-toe with the best American teams, like, I think that's starting to open up, and that people are around the world. I mean, Trinity just signed the junior national team setter from Germany, and, I think an educated volleyball person will kind of look at Canada and be like, well, I can go to Canada and get a really good education from a really top-notch, school, and also play some top-notch volleyball and go play kind of wherever around the world.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I hope it's the case. I mean, plus I love, Canada's such a wonderful place. I want more people, in the volleyball community in Europe to experience it and things like that. And the more interest that people have in that program, and the more people you reach from, the better it's going to become. So I hope it's the case too. And I didn't know about that Trinity Western thing where he's some new talent coming from afar. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it from other schools, Brandon and Laval, Thompson Rivers. They've always been known for kind of bringing in foreigners, and I mean, a lot of those guys are playing on their national teams, especially the Aussies, kind of overseas. But yeah, you're starting to see top notch talent really look at U Sport and be like, hey, like I think Canada is a place to go, and I think that's exciting.
Yeah, I hope so.
Especially when you're looking at the NCAA right now, and I think that the United States is in a serious crisis almost, where if you look across the NCAA, the best players in the NCAA are. All right, sorry about that, guys. I just had a bit of technical difficulties there. But yeah, basically, as I was saying, I think looking at the NCAA, they're in a bit of a crisis. Like if you look at the top teams, all of their best players are foreigners. I mean, even if you look at UCLA, one of their first team All-Americans is a Canadian guy by the name of Cole Kaczynski. Whereas in Canada, we are developing our own talent here at home. And I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen such strength from Canadian volleyball over the past, decade or so.
Yeah. Okay. So you're suggesting that,
I'm suggesting
like,
basically that like we want to let foreigners in, but at a limited
but
level.
there's a risk.
Yeah, but there's a risk. I think that we don't want to. I also think that there's more opportunities to play here maybe than in the States at the university level, and that I think that we've really benefited from keeping our talent here at home in Canada, and now other countries are seeing that benefit too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's tough. It's like when you say that, I kind of think of like from a European perspective, like when I think of countries that have foreigner caps,
That's
and and I kind of think of the essence of like what professional is, and a part of me uh, like I agree with it to some extent, right? Like you want to have the nationality, the majority of your players from that nationality. I can respect that, but at the same time, like if you want the industry, the club, the exposure, the just everything to grow, I think just naturally it's going to grow with um, the level of the league.
mm-hmm.
The better the sport, the more popular it's going to be, the more money it's going to produce. So it's in terms of like allowing foreign players into any program, I suppose it's just that's a challenging kind of balance, because how much do you want to support your home country opposed to support the volleyball industry within that country, I guess, is kind of like what you have to kind of question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's multiple ways to do it, but it's very exciting where we're at right now in Canada, and I mean you're a prime example of that. Now, are you heading back to Karlovarsko for next season? Or are you still kind of in that contract negotiation stage?
No, no, I'm happy to say that I'm staying with the club. They've I had I was quite happy with the exposure that I got in Champions League, and I thought that there might be an opportunity to look elsewhere, or per se upgrade. But I did also really strongly consider the opportunity of re-signing if the club would have me, just because there's so many unknowns, I guess, in taking. There's so many risks in signing to a new club because all you ever know is what you see on paper in a contract. You know how much money you're going to get, and that's about it. And you don't know, what apartment you're going to be living in. You don't know what the people are going to be like. You don't know what the food's going to be like. You don't know what the city's going to look like. You don't know anything. And I've just been really fortunate here because it just ticks off a lot of boxes. I love the city. I love the people. The club takes care of me, and we're in the running to win a championship. There's the repeat in performance in Champions League, or the opportunity to play in Champions League. So just it kind of ticked off all of the boxes. So I was just happy to kind of re-sign and to continue my small little legacy here. And so
Hey man, I think stability is a great thing.
it's something you just don't have in this career. You just don't. It's just not. It's it's totally unstable, and you just don't know what to expect. So as soon as you can expect things, it becomes quite appealing.
Do you feel like you're becoming part of the community there too?
Uh, so um, the Czech language is really, really challenging. Slavic languages in general are just like super hard to understand and pronounce, and like I've always just thought that some of the words just sounds like baby talk. I maybe that's crass, but it's just like hello in Czech is dobrý den, and goodbye is nashledanou, or that's like good evening, and it's just jumbled up mush basically, or at least that's what it feels like. And so where am I going with this? The language barrier has made it difficult to be a part of the community for sure, but that doesn't stop people from trying to interact with me, which is kind of cool. I have and it's most recently now after we won the championship, I've had quite a few instances of people recognizing me on the street and saying, hey, congratulations and things like that. So I know that I've done something for the community. I've made some people proud here. And then there's the sponsorship things that we have to do with the club that give back to the community as well. But it's the way I can contribute to them, I guess, is by performing and winning, and that seems to make the people happy around me.
Oh, that's great. Is it because Karlovarsko, or I'm looking it up right now on my phone on Google Maps, and it's actually Karlovy Vary. Technically, but it's what I'm guessing is a small town compared to somewhere like Prague.
Yeah, so Karlovarsko is Karlovarsko is the region, and Karlovy Vary is the city that I live in.
Okay.
And
what's the population?
It's quite small. I think it's like 30,000 or something like that.
Okay.
Like it's not that big. You'd have to fact check me on that one, but
so it's like smaller than Guelph.
Yeah, it's. Oh yes, yeah, for sure. It's very small. Well, I don't know. It doesn't feel that small. I guess maybe because I've lived in Stratford all my life, and that's a similar population at around like 32,000 or something like that. So to me, that's my city, and that's what big is. So so it's a small town kind of experience, and it's a beautiful little city that's kind of nestled into some valleys and some mountains. So.
It sounds picturesque. I mean, before we started recording, you were telling me how you're going to go check out a castle, this weekend, and I'm here in the most locked down city in the world, and seeing a castle right now would be really, really nice.
Yeah. It's I mean, like I was saying before we started, of course, Czech Republic's been battling with COVID just like the rest of the world, but we're coming down off the tail end of a third wave right now, and I have a couple of weeks before I return back to Canada, so I thought, why not just go for a beautiful scenic walk and kind of enjoy the sights while Darrell, my fiance, and I still can. So yeah, it's a beautiful area. I would like it's hard to, maybe it's hard to talk about travel with the state of things, but in 5 or 10 years or however, it takes for the world to get back to normal. I think Czech Republic is someplace that I would recommend everybody to visit, because Prague and Karlovy Vary are these like really magical places that I don't know. When I went to Prague, I kind of felt like it was something out of a Disney book or something like that. Like it seemed so untouched by the war and things like that. And the architecture is very distinct, and it's definitely unique for sure.
That's great. That's what's one thing that's so great about playing professional volleyball is it just gives you these different experiences in these different places that you would never really think of living, and when growing up in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's one of the benefits of the place. It's like I think you don't get as much of it as you think, though. To be quite frank, is that like the best memories of travel I have is around Christmas, like when we actually have some time off, because it's like, and that's the other thing I was talking about the risk, is because I know a lot of guys when I was growing up within university kind of thing, in volleyball, the idea of playing professionally just to go for 1 year for the experience. Like that's like a very common kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, because of the risk of you don't know what the city's like. And really over the course of the season, you have a couple, if you're lucky, you get a week off at Christmas where you can go and travel somewhere in Europe. But then for the most part, you live in your city. The place you travel to is your city. And because even though you travel away for your away games, it's a tight ship. Like you're not able to go off and go sightseeing for 2 hours, upon your arrival or something like that, right? Like it's nose to the grindstone. You're here to do your job and play ball, and that's to play volleyball kind of thing. So it's so that's another reason why I would love it. Yeah, if any future Canadians get an offer from VK Karlovarsko, one of the risks that you can eliminate is living in a city that you'll appreciate and you'll love, is because it's a beautiful little small quaint town, and it's close to Prague too.
You're just out here recruiting.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of the I've talked to younger athletes before, and it's hard to kind of wrap your head around what kind of reality it is. So if you can, the best people that you can talk to are the people that have experienced it, I guess.
Now as you've played, you're going into your 5th year professionally. And as you mentioned, playing professionally coming from North America is much different than playing from Europe. There's guys who are playing professionally and are on squads at 18, 19 years old. Whereas, you didn't start playing professionally until you're like 23, 24?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, it's obviously it's almost like a delayed career, but at this point, are you kind of looking at it and being like, hey, I'm going to kind of run this as long as I can, maybe even see some other countries as well as along the way before I head back to Ontario to start my coaching career?
Yeah, for sure. So I, Durrell, my fiance, we met each other in university, and in the early years, when the relationship was going pretty well, I made it very clear to her that this is going to be long distance at some point in time in our relationship. Like if we're going to be together, I'm going to go play professional volleyball. That's something, like if we're going to continue this, we need to discuss that and be aware of it. And I said, and so we kind of discussed it and thought, I was like, I'd be pretty good to play till, 3, maybe 4 more years, till I was around like 33, 34 kind of thing. And she was like, yeah, okay, all right, sure, you can go do that. And and so that was kind of the the idea that we kind of came to, and the timeline that we kind of made, and at that point in time when we were discussing it, back in university, um, um, I was didn't know if my body was even going to be able to hold out, kind of thing, for that long. But it turns out that, actually, I think that's like one of the biggest things I've learned how to do over my professional career right now, is that, because I feel better than I did at my first year of university, or sorry, professional pro career. And so, yeah, so I think I'm going to spend one more year with Karlovarsko, and try and have some good performance in Champions League, to create some exposure and some traction for some other teams. And then, yeah, I would love to play in another team, to kind of, just to have another experience, basically, because that is one of the benefits of the job. Like you said, is kind of you can kind of just jump everywhere. You kind of play 1 year, play 1 year there, if you're lucky enough. So yeah, I think about 34, and then hopefully, and then we can hang the boots up. I don't know. We'll see if things are going really well, and then Durrell and I will have to renegotiate our deal.
So, but she's with you in Karlovarsko, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've been together for 9 years now, and I think now we're just reaching the point where we've spent more time together than we were apart. So this was our first year together where there was no distance. So she arrived with me in September, and we've spent, and it's going to stay like that now. So it's exciting.
Can I ask? Does the club help take care of that and stuff like that? Do they help her?
Oh yeah, so
country and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've the visas and things like that, Everett, are, I think, the most stressful part of the travel, because it's like, I've had experiences where the club will say like, oh yeah, we'll take care of you, and then you'll need like a document that takes like, I don't know, 3 months to process in Canada, and then you're risking having to be like sent home, because you only have a 90-day like tourist visa, like when you first arrive. But so from that experience, we've always just found that, we just kind of take care of it ourselves. So we've been able to find a way to get her a visa, like a long stay, like travel, or there's loads of different classifications. But yeah, another recommendation for any younger professionals there, or aspiring professionals, that to try and take care of that visa stuff on your end as best as you can. Like, pretend that nobody knows anything, and then just try and explore and figure it out on your own. And but yeah, so she's that's not to say that the club doesn't help in some aspects, here and there. But yeah, so we've been, I negotiated an apartment that's big enough and suited for both of us. And she's actually, been a professor this past year. So she's been teaching at the University of Toronto, University of McGill, and University of Dalhousie. So she has a doctorate in biomechanics, and so that's what she's been teaching online with.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, everything can just be done remotely right now, so that's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure it's a little bit difficult with the time change, but at least you guys are ahead and not behind. At least she's not in Canada trying to teach in Europe, where she has to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to teach a class.
No, that's the case. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it when we were, if you were recording or not, but we both are really just living in a dreamland, because it's, because everything's digital. She's had work opportunities because of, all the lockdowns, and because of the sport was continued in Europe, I still get to just play volleyball. So we're very fortunate. We've been really happy with what we've been able to accomplish this year.
I mean, from your own words yourself, it sounds like you're living the dream. And I mean, at the end of the day, what I love so much about, the reality is that you're not playing volleyball to make big money. It's
No.
like that notion that we grow up with as like a professional athlete in North America is so far from the reality that is playing pro volleyball.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, just being happy and having those experiences, to me, from everyone I've ever spoken to who's played pro, that's a win. So I'm very happy for you that that's the case for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that was actually the biggest thing. Yeah, I talked about kind of like the emotions I went through after I won the championship, and that's you really kind of like um, you found something that you love when you don't have it anymore, right? And as soon as it's done, it's really like it's almost disappointing in a sense,
Yep.
and that's kind of like where I was going with that. Like I did do really love waking up to play this game, and it is for the money. It's like you it's volleyball players don't make the amount of money like by professional North American sports standards by any means. And
No, you guys basically make the per diem of a North
yeah,
American athlete.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So actually, and
entire club's pay salary will be less than like the league minimum for one player in North America.
yeah, you got to start tacking zeros on the end of our contract for us to catch up. But yeah, so but actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I'll come back to the language, and when I came back to Czech Republic, it was the first time where I didn't have a teammate that spoke English, and that was like another kind of awakening of, okay, do you really like what you do? Because when you're stuck in a world where it's really difficult to be social and you can't really make friends, and all you have and all like the one language that you do speak with them is volleyball, that's really kind of eye-opening, because I went through a point where it was just like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Do I really like this? And the answer was kind of yes. Yeah, I do. Volleyball is enough for me to just inspire me to get up every morning and to like, like what I do. So, because it's, it was kind of an interesting kind of experience because my first 2 years in France, I played with Ray Zito and Braden McLean and Steve Irvine and from the States, and then Steve Hunt in my second year in France. So basically I had the wingmen throughout my first 2 years of pro. And
so those are some pretty good wingmen, not to mention,
yeah,
those are quality
exactly.
people for sure.
Exactly. So it was a different experience. But as soon as you come to Czech Republic, that was like, yeah, that's the thing I've learned that I don't know. I just love doing what I do. I guess.
And I have to say, like it shows. Like it really shows. Like I remember watching you in that first Champions League round and being like, man, like it looks like Marc is just out there having fun. Like
I'm glad you noticed that.
It looked like you were, and I mean, it looked like you were just there to have a good time. And I mean, especially like, not saying anything bad about your club, but when you're coming into Champions League as the Czech Republic representative, it's not necessarily
you're expected to get dusted.
You're expected to get dusted. So, and it truly seemed like you were just there to enjoy the experience, and that's what it seemed like you did.
Oh man, so it was like that was it was incredible, because there were so many things flowing through my mind. I wasn't nervous at all until I scored my first point. It was like the beginning was like it was a mix of happiness and nervousness. And I said to my like one-liner after Champions League was like, I think the sorest muscle in my body after that performance, because it was 3 games back to back to back.
It was heavy this year, man. I don't know how you guys did it.
And I said the sorest muscle on my body was my face from smiling, because I couldn't stop smiling when I was on the court. I was like, because I idolized so many of the players that I was playing against in university, like, and to think like, do you just see them as gods? You think that they're like just these absolute monsters, and then too, where so that was like the first kind of like thrill was like, oh my God, I'm here. I did it. I'm jamming. Oh my God. Like I just couldn't stop smiling. And then I scored my first point, and then it just like, the smile went from here to here, because then I was like, oh, I'm here and I can play with these guys. Holy smokes. It was like a moment where you meet your heroes for the first time, and you kind of realize that they're just humans too, and they just make the same mistakes you do. And then I realized I can do the same things they can do. And it was just like, it was so thrilling. Yeah, it was just, I'm glad that, you could see that on camera. That's funny.
Well, I mean, it seemed like the camera loved you, because it was on you a lot, and yeah, it was great to watch. It especially like we're friends, and I saw you playing growing up, and saw you playing at university, and just realizing that dream that, as we said before, even if you're one of the top players in the country, you may not play Champions League. Like, for example, I don't know if Gord Perrin has ever played Champions League before, which is crazy to think about. Which he'll go down in the annals as one of the greatest Canadian volleyball players of all time, but he just never played on a Champions League team. And that's not saying anything about it. That's nothing against him. It's just, sometimes the cards fall that way, and the cards fell in your favor, where you not only get to play once, but you're going to get to play again next year, hopefully.
Yeah. So I always just found that I always knew that my playing in Champions League was always one of my goals. And what was cool about this was, because absolutely, like, it can be total luck. And I imagine a lot of the time it is that you can just get it. You don't know who's watching you, or at the right time to get the to have the interest in you, to get the offer, and you don't know if it's going to be on a first place team, or what opportunities. There's loads of like chance that are things that aren't within your control. But when I thought about Champions League, I thought, okay, the way that I'm going to get there is I need to get on a lower place team that will take me, take a risk on me, because I always, see it as like I'm a nobody. And that ended up happening at Usti. I played for Usti. It's the same team as Lars. Yep. Lars Barman. 2018,
2019, yeah.
Just 1 year.
That just season, the 18-19 season.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, of course. And then I knew my pathway to Champions League was to get on a lower team, and then to build up to that, to have a performance, get on one of the top teams. And since I wasn't able to kind of maintain a spot on the national team, and I thought, like, how am I going to climb up the ranks professionally? And it's like, that was my pathway. You kind of either like, you get your exposure from being on the national team and like playing in VNL, and like then European clubs see you and know who you are. And then, the route that I took was you get lucky, basically. You get your foot in the door with a club, and then you have to basically have a performance. You have to. It's all up to you to kind of put the numbers up, or to impress the right people at the right time. And I managed to do that with Karlovarsko. And then, that's another thing that I feel is kind of special about next year, is because I feel like there was less chance involved in getting to that Champions League opportunity. Like I've always kind of planned that was the route that I was going to take. And now I get to play for the team that I won the championship, where I earned it. So it's thrilling. I don't know how my smile is going to be any bigger than it was this year for next year, but dude, like, and that's assuming that it all happens. You never know these days with all the
but man, like, that makes me so happy for you that, like, you planned it out that way, and you planned it out, and you had that goal, and someone's alarm's going off outside. Hopefully you don't hear it on the mic. No. But you planned out that way of happening it that way, and it came to fruition. And like the fact that you were able to earn that spot and confirm your spot that way, like, man, congratulations. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I'm not afraid to pat myself on the back for that one.
And you should be.
Like,
you should be. Like, I think that's definitely something that, like, maybe more people should be doing. Like, hey, I had this goal and I achieved it, and here I am, like, reaping the benefits and reaping the rewards.
Yeah, it's cool. It's and there's something to be said about, like, I don't know, how you get your first opportunity. And I think a lot of people get frustrated with agencies and things like that, and because it's difficult to even just get your first opportunity. And but yeah, it's I think it wasn't always like as planned out as that, like, I tried in France, and, like, that was the original goal, and I tried and failed in France. I didn't perform the way that I needed to impress the people to get on to the next level, to get on, to climb up that ladder. And injuries were a part of that, but I don't want to, and just my skill level as well. But I was lucky enough to get another break in Usti. And yeah, so it's just like, it's at some point, there's landing these positions in on high placed teams. There's an agency and your agent can get you a contract, but at the end of the day, you kind of got to get in there, and you got to earn it to impress the right people, and then you can kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, your agent can only say so many nice words about you before someone sees you play, and is like, but if you were there and physically show them how you can play, and here's the results that I've had, and here's what I've done in the past, like, it's not saying you don't need an agent, but your work has done the talking for you, and I mean, that's phenomenal, dude. I'm really happy for you that you've been able to have that kind of success.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate that.
Who was the player that you were the most excited to play against at Champions League?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a
because, like, you had some big ones like Namir.
Probably the Serbian middles in Trentino, Lisinac and Prgostrinen. Yeah, because those guys have just been, like, I've idolized them as being, since forever.
Did you block either of them?
I don't remember. I don't think so. No. I think I got destroyed by them, actually. I think Trentino was my worst game out of the three, even though, but they didn't block me. So there
we go. It's 50-50 then, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe they're like putting on the calendar for next year, being like, hey, we're gonna play Karlovarsko, and we're gonna go after that Canadian kid Wilson, because neither of us got him, and we need to go get him.
We were both out there throwing hands for sure. It was just a big slugfest. And I think credit to my setter too at the time, and because I think nobody knew. No, again, right? That's the one thing. That's the one advantage that we have as the team that nobody knows and nobody thinks is going to win, is that there's no respect. And so our setter at the time, Wessel Kiemink, he just, we just connected, and he just saw, like, oh, okay, well, they're not respecting Marc Block. Well, let's just keep feeding him. And, and it just worked out. So
now, how much of that Champions League experience helped you guys, regain the championship, this week?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'll just talk about it from, like, a personal perspective.
Sure.
Because the things that I learned from that was definitely, so I've never been in a finals, like, ever, like at a high level, of course I have a lot of silver medals in high school, but that doesn't count. And but anyway, so I've been in stressful situations for sure, but it's learning to compete in that environment was one of the things that I've that was the biggest like growth point, I think, for me this season. And having Champions League as kind of like a warm up to that was I think something that benefited me because I was able to kind of keep a cool head. You know, it's like if I said to myself like if I can do that in Champions League, then I can do that here. You know, like it's no matter what, you know, it kind of grounded me from a focus and from a nervous standpoint, I guess. So and two, it was just like and then maybe from a team perspective, yeah, we grew together as a team in that moment because of the just I think we impressed ourselves. I guess you kind of go into it and think that and know that you're the team that everybody expects to lose. And so then you kind of get that mindset as a team. It's just like, oh, okay, well, this doesn't mean anything, but you know, and then when we were kind of fighting and we were like, oh man, things are close. Holy smokes, we could actually do something. And then you kind of like, hey, you know, there's this kind of like birth of confidence. So, you know, as a team, that I could see us carrying that into the finals as well.
Wow. Is the team looking mostly the same for next year?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I would say pretty much there's maybe only one or two spots that are different.
Wow.
So
yeah,
so it's
any new Canadians or North Americans for you to speak some English with, or are you still going to be the only English speaker on the team?
man, I was really hoping that Casey would make it onto our team because he had a great season but I don't know. I don't think that's the case. We re-signed our starting opposite. So I know that's what I was really hoping for. I was really, really hoping for another Canadian because there were so many. I was just thinking, or like
a couple of Canadian redheads hanging out,
or like, yeah, exactly, right. Like two giant red beards on the team, like that would. Yeah, but no, I don't think it's going to come true. I think it's going to be I'm going to be the only foreigner on the team there, or like North American foreigner.
Do you feel you know, like do you have people from like Welford or, you know, Stratford or whatever who contact you and be like, hey, you know, I've been watching and like it's been great. Like do you have a bit of a fan following back at home?
Yeah, it was really cool to see. You know, you don't really like I don't expect that people to follow me when I'm, you know, every match or something like that. But just recently in the finals and seeing all the people that did watch that I would have thought they would have watched or something like that was quite exciting. Like and getting responses on on Instagram from like the Stratford Cobras, you know, like who I haven't been in contact with in ages, and it was just like it was just heartwarming to kind of feel like, oh wow, like that was a part of that was part of my origin story. That was the beginning, and to think that they're kind of keeping in touch was kind of cool. And yeah, and of course I get lots of support from Guelph University. I get, you know, shout outs from them on their social media and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I really hope that I can, I don't know. We'll see what the summer looks like. But every summer, I always like to kind of go back and try and make an appearance to the athletes that are there. But I don't know if it'll work out this summer. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
a little bit tougher. I like how you call it your origin story, like you're a superhero in the MCU.
Hey, that's the way I feel, right?
All the power to you, then, man. Like I might steal that.
What? Why not? Why not?
I might steal that from now on. But you know, it was funny because I wrote that article for you after, or not for you, but about you after the first week of Champions League, and it's still to this day one of the most you know, viewed articles on the website.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool. Because I maybe because people are like, who the hell is this guy? You know, like, oh, interesting, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I
what
don't know.
it was.
I just don't think I'm a big name.
Well, you're a bigger name now.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? You know, and like that,
Exactly.
and that's what I think is so crazy because, you know, I definitely get caught in that trap of viewing people as like the same athletes and like the same level they were in university. Maybe like in club and university, because like oftentimes we see that, the guys who are good in club are the guys who are generally good in university.
Of course.
But then we don't really get to see that transition of becoming a professional volleyball player. And more, especially these days now, where every league has a stream and it's pretty easy to watch all the time, and to see that development from being, a gangly teenager first starting at Guelph now to being a starter in a Champions League match, like that's a pretty damn good origin story, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I'm proud. It's I think I took a different route than a lot of maybe professional players do, and I feel like I've kind of been playing catch up my whole career because I've started so late. Like we take it back to when we were talking about the provincial team and PJ and watching, thinking like the superstar and thinking that I'm nothing, and yeah, so but that's the best part. It's like that's another thing that I've kind of learned with the championship is that like that championship is just like it's one small moment. Like, yeah, sure, it's a huge moment, but the thing that is more rewarding is feeling and seeing the growth that championship represents, right? Like you'll have that memory, but really what makes me proud and what makes me keep doing, the stuff I do every day is the satisfaction that I get from that kind of development and that growth.
I mean, do you feel like you've caught up yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I guess not. I guess I don't know, because it's like I guess I've never. Okay, so this is interesting. When I started playing volleyball, like I just said that I wanted to be the greatest. Like I said, a pretty classic goal as a young athlete, a young person. Like, oh, I just want to be the best. I want to be the number one volleyball player in the world, kind of thing. And to me, I set some goals that would define that. I said, oh, I'm going to make the national team. I'm going to make the national team. And to me, that was the defining feature. Like if I can represent my country, that I'm going to define that as the 1%. I'm going to define that as being the greatest. And to some degree, I got there, but I didn't maintain it. And so I thought, and I went through a transition period.
Do you still have a Team Canada jersey with Wilson on the back?
Yeah, for sure I do.
And you made it,
I want to
bro.
continue
You
that.
made it. You
Yeah,
made it.
yeah, yeah.
That's more than I have.
Yeah. Okay. But here, I'm getting to my point.
All right.
So in what I viewed as my failure to maintain that position on the national team, I had to reassess and define my goals. Like I built my entire entity on just being like, oh, you've got to try and be the greatest. You've got to try and be the greatest. That means making the national team. And so then I said to myself, like when I kind of revitalized my goals and the idea and the chances of making the national team like really started to slowly kind of drift away, I just said to myself, just be better than yesterday's you, and that's what I love doing, and I get a lot of like day-to-day satisfaction by just looking back, on the small things that I did yesterday, and if I can do them better, and if I've done them better now, and that puts a smile, that makes me happy, day to day, and so I just left that as my goal, and so I don't have any like major giant like volleyball goals. And so for me, it's like, have I made it? Like, do you think I've caught up? Well, there's still players that are better than me, and I still think that I can be better than yesterday's me. So I'm just gonna keep going, and then when I finally retire, then maybe you can ask me the question again and see if I think that I've made it or not. So I mean, that's kind of like my mindset.
I feel like if I ask you that question after you retire and stuff like that, and trust me, I will. We'll circle back to this once you retire. And I feel like the answer is going to be no, and I respect that a lot. Do you feel like that change of mindset is what's led to this success? Because I know that I suspect that so many different athletes who have that goal of being the best, and at the end of the day, ultimately only one person can be the best. Like only one person is going to be that Michael Jordan, that LeBron James, and stand at the top of that pinnacle.
You know
And
what?
that realization
Yeah.
might be crushing, and that change of mindset seems to
Yeah.
me like that's really what's led to your success and ultimately your happiness.
Yeah. So I'm really glad you mentioned that because that's like that's one of the big things that I've kind of realized over my career is that it's like I think that saying and having the goal is like I want to be Michael Jordan is I don't think it's a good goal personally. I think that everybody runs the same race at a different starting position. And some people have to work harder to catch up, and they can catch up. But ultimately, everybody's going to have a different starting point. And so comparing yourself to another person, I think doesn't get you anywhere because of that difference in starting point. And and I think that it's better to just compare just compare yourself against you kind of thing, like I was just saying, and use like say Michael Jordan as a role model and understand and learn from that knowledge rather than aspire to be him. um Understand why he and how he got to the places that he did, and then use that to kind of as your models and things like that. But so it's that's kind of just what's driven me is that. And the other thing too is about the idea where people start in different positions in the race is that I've learned that there's a lot of things that you can't control. And you don't know who's looking at you at the right time. You don't know who's going to be impressed with you to get on the certain team that you want. And I found that if you focus any kind of energy on things that you can't control, that it just ends up being a waste of time because you just get frustrated with those things. And if you decide to put that energy into the things that you can look after and you can control, you just work on you just grow so much better. And so that's kind of like where I've I guess created kind of my own philosophy that I live by is learn from the people around you, but then don't compare yourself to them.
Wow, dude, that's powerful. That's thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of people need to hear that. And whether it's in volleyball or whether it's just in life. That's more of a life philosophy than it is a volleyball philosophy, right?
Yeah, I guess, and I'm not preaching it as like the right answer that everybody should do that. I just found that as soon as I kind of ditched some the goals that I didn't have control over, say like maybe make the national team, I just started to feel happier, and I started to there was less opportunities where, like the other middle blockers, for example, I would start to get really frustrated and understand and like not, or the people that any competition in any sense, I started to think about them, to appreciate their accomplishments rather than be frustrated with them because they were my competition, and trust and rather than just start to learn from them and use that to better myself. So anyway, I guess I'm close enough on 30, so you'll learn a thing or two over a little while.
Yeah, man, we're starting to get up there in age. We're not spry young guys anymore. Playing in the OVA.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had to like look back over your origin story, is there anything you would change?
Oh man, yeah, I've thought about that constantly. You know, and you start to think about, like, I thought about that a lot when it's a hard question because given what I knew when I was at the younger ages or something like that, I'm really proud of where I've come to be. If it's a situation where I could go back, I could take my older self and talk to my younger self. Yeah, there's loads of things that I would change. But I think it's a dangerous, mindset to have, right? Because it's hard not to turn that into kind of regrets. But from a learning perspective, um, yeah, like I guess I would tell myself to probably take a different route if I knew, because like earlier on, if I knew that professional if I knew I was going to be a professional athlete, I would change a lot of things. I would change the route that I would take. I would change my priorities when I was younger. But since I didn't know that was, that was the path, you know, that's why it took so long, I guess, to get where I am right now. But yeah, I would teach myself a little bit more,
I mean,
I
hey,
suppose.
that's that's a great answer. I mean,
Yeah,
we would all wouldn't we all love to do that, eh? If we
yeah,
knew if
exactly,
we knew
exactly. But at
if
the
we knew
same
what we knew
time, it
now.
can, yeah, exactly. It can be dangerous, But I would just, yeah, yeah. I think maybe I would try and convince myself not to go to university. I would think if I was to go back, like just from a volleyball perspective, I would just say, 16-year-old me, I would write a letter to FDC and I would say, I want to be a part of your program. I want to be a part of your program for life. Like I want to dedicate myself to the sport, to your program. Take me on. Like I would. That's what I would go tell my 16-year-old self to do, and just be a part of volleyball, like 100% volleyball all the time. But at the same time, it's like you learn so much from growing up in university and things like that. Maybe I'd be a different person, but from a volleyball perspective, yeah, I think that's what I would do.
I mean, I had to say I like the Marc Wilson that we have now, and we wouldn't have this Marc Wilson if it wasn't for all of those experiences. So,
Yeah, exactly. Right?
I'm glad the way that I'm glad the path that you took, and I'm very happy for you that you found so much success and happiness both like success can be defined in certain ways, and 100% I think success can be defined by championships and appearances in the Champions League, but you've also found success on your own terms, and I think that might be the most important thing of it all.
Thanks. Yeah, that's. I think you've wrapped it up nicely because even though I won the gold medal, it's taught me that I've found something that I just really love, something that I can cherish and just keep continuing to do.
Is it real gold, the gold medal? Okay, let's see it. Let's see it.
Okay, so they give you a dummy medal, which is this one.
Oh, okay. All right. With
Which is
the classic blue, red, and white ribbon. Just like we're
yeah,
playing Timbit soccer again. Love it.
and then they give you this thing.
Oh man, look at that.
Okay. And so I'm pretty sure this says, you asked, is it real gold? I don't think it's 100% real gold. It's a silver coin that's gold plated. So
Okay.
kind of close.
Wow.
It's something.
That is, hey,
Kind of
that's great.
kind of neat, eh?
A nice little like official certificate there too. That's
Yeah, I can start my trophy box, right?
Hey, it's the first
At
one.
home.
It's the first
It's
one.
the first and only one, just right there. I'm gonna have a big giant trophy box with just this thing in it.
Hey man,
Awesome.
you're gonna have that forever, and you're gonna be able to show that. You're gonna be able to show that to your kids and grandkids, and like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
you may
Hey,
not
fingers crossed to have them. Yeah.
you may not be able to see it now, but back in the day, your old man was pretty good at the old volleyball.
Yeah, that's right. Like to think so anyway.
Hey man,
So,
I've always thought you were really good, and I mean, obviously other people do too, since you're over there playing professionally. But dude,
well, thanks, Everett.
no, thank you, man. Like it's been great to kind of reconnect with you and chat here. It's, as I said, it was so much fun. It was fun from like a nostalgic point of view, being like, hey, that's someone like I grew up with and I know, and I played against, playing Champions League. It's one thing to see like the big names in Canadian volleyball do that, and of course there's another sense of pride, but it was great to see you and do that and thrive the way you did and enjoy it the way you did. As I said, like you could visually see that you were happy what you were doing, and that you were having a just a great time with it. I mean, maybe it's a bit of a bias because before this I was watching the highlight videos that you put together on your Instagram feed, and just watching those are great, by the way.
Go check them out.
Love them. You guys should check them out on Marc's. Actually, when I share this on Instagram, I'll share one of those for on the page for people
Appreciate
to see.
it.
But and you can 100% just see like the joy that he brings to the court, and you know what, I think more players should play that way. And yeah, man, as I said, super happy for you and your success. Super happy that you're still out there playing the game that you love, and ultimately super happy for you that you still love the game. You know, I know so many people who don't like volleyball anymore, and there's no shade whatsoever. I've gone through those periods of times myself from like, you know, F this, I'm not playing volleyball, I have nothing to do with volleyball, but you're out there loving it and living it, and man, I think that's the best.
It's grown to be more than a sport for me. You know, it's kind of like it's not just learning the game, and it does teach you a lot of things about just life in general. I think you can apply a lot of life lessons to what you learn in volleyball, and hopefully I'll get to come back and share them back in Canada, and we'll, you know, who knows what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, whatever kid gets you as a coach in the future is really the one who's benefiting it. All of this, I have to say that.
I hope so. I hope I'm a better coach than I am a player. So,
you know what? I'm willing to say you will be. Like I think I know your character enough and your level of intelligence enough to know that whatever you get from being a player, you're going to be able to apply that twofold or threefold to being a coach. So
thanks, Everett.
I for one can't wait till you're coaching, but I'm also saying, like, don't worry, coaching will still be there in 10 years. But playing won't be.
Okay.
So let's just run with this playing as far as you can go, as long as you can go, and then once you're done, I'm sure any university, college, club, whatever would be happy to have you. Quick question: Where's your fiance from?
She's from Kingston.
Kingston. All right. So have you guys ever had that conversation of where you'd like to settle down in the future? I'm just recruiting for you for your next club or anything for the future.
No, it's cool. We'll get some feelers out now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Darrell's family lives in Kingston. So we're actually going to be married in Kingston this summer.
Wow. Congratulations.
And, thank you. Yeah, I got a ring and a medal this year.
Dude,
it's off to a great start.
You're winning.
Yeah. And so I think we've talked about it, and I think Kingston is going to be the place where I'll settle down. So, you know, Gabe DeGroot, Queen's University, like, hey.
I think I hear Brenda Willis and the Kingston Volleyball Club calling you out right away. Like the phone's already ringing.
If I'm living in Kingston and you need an assistant coach or somebody to hit down balls at your boys, give me a call.
Gabe DeGroot is a former Guelph Griffin, so you've got that Guelph connection there, getting it done potentially. I mean, that's like just touching on that. Yeah, that's a program that's done amazing things in the past couple of years.
Yeah. I would love to be part of the university program for sure. At the end of the day, I don't know where. I think it's like what. Oh, I have lots of ideas and aspirations for it because I really like teaching young kids, like really young kids, all levels. Teaching young kids the foundation of the sport basically is something that I really enjoy.
I think that's so important. And you're very much right. It's in my view, it's the area most needed for development in Canada right now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the country recognizes how good we are actually at the sport, and right.
100%.
Yeah. Like Canadians are pretty good at volleyball, like in the world ranking. And we're still there. It just isn't the programs that support, younger development. Like as soon as you can skate, we put people on, we give them a stick and put them on the ice, right? Or as soon as you can walk, you can skate, I guess is maybe a better way to put it.
Absolutely.
So I guess in the future, I would love to try and foster a way that as soon as you can walk, you can start to play volleyball kind of thing. Like that's what I would love to bring back to our, to
Tennis
for
nets.
the next stage. But as you said, I'm going to keep playing
down the road a little bit. But yeah, absolutely. I 100% think that, I was playing soccer at 5. I was playing hockey at 6. You play those sports early. Why can't we play a different version of volleyball? Soccer, you play with a smaller ball, smaller field. I almost said terrain in French. I don't know why, where my brain went French there. In hockey, we play timbits, half court. We can figure it out. Badminton nets, tennis nets, whatever for volleyball. So once you're ready to that, I've got plenty of resources for you to look into, and people would love to help you with that.
I've said to Doral, we're going to have balloons in our house all the time. Like there's going to be a balloon or two in every room because I don't want to push my child into playing volleyball. So I want to just like secretly inspire them to resonate with volleyball, and kids love balloons. And I've taught at younger, like really young, really, I did a little stint at McGill University teaching their volleyball sports program, and that was like ages from, I think they had like 4-year-olds was the youngest that I was teaching volleyball to, and balloons is like all kids love at a younger age. So any parents that want their kids to learn volleyball, put some balloons in your house. Just have balloons around, and kids will just naturally start to pick them up and start playing with them in their hair. That's how I'm going to inspire Canadians youth.
I mean, that's what that
toddlers.
that's what that meme is. It's just like volleyball is just a more intense version of keep the balloon off the ground. And I mean, as kids, we've all played it, and that's exactly what volleyball is. You just keep the ball off the ground and put it on the other team's ground, and you win.
Exactly. So,
well. Yeah. Mr. Wilson, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with me today. As I said, it was great to kind of reconnect with you and hear your origin story. Like that story about Dave Steiner opening up the gym door for you down the sketchy alley is great, and might stay in the annals of one of my favorite volleyball origin stories of all time. And as I said before, congratulations.
Cool. Well, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully maybe some kid in Stratford hears that and takes the jump that if they don't have a club team around, although I think that's starting to change now, that they can go play elsewhere, because, you never know. You might end up like Marc Wilson and winning championships and playing in the Champions League one day.
Who knows?
Who knows, right?
Who knows?
Well, dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And best of luck. Take some time off. Enjoy the castles around Czech Republic, and I'm sure I'll see you at some point when you're back here. And just congratulations, man. I'm really happy that you're happy and doing well.
Thanks, Everett. It was a pleasure to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys. You should go check out Marc on Instagram and check out those highlights that he has from the Champions League, because they're pretty awesome. And I mean, going toe to toe with the world's best, it's not every day you get to do that, and not every Canadian kid gets to do that, and you got to do it. So congratulations, dude, once again, and thanks a lot. And guys, thank you for checking out the Volleyball Source podcast. And we'll catch you next time. Peace. Thanks, Marc.